Okay, so in the arrays video, we saw how we can create an array of things. For example, we have this names to invite array that contains 6 names, right? So now we're going to talk about loops. So how can we loop through each item in the array? And why might that be useful? Maybe think about that for a bit. So how can we make this useful? Well, for example, since we have the names to invite array now, we have a bunch of names to invite, and now we could maybe call a method that actually invites these names. So I can go through this list and invite all these people, right? So to sort of facilitate this, tutorial, um, I've gone ahead and created a class called party, and I have created a class method called invite, and all it does is it takes in a name and it invites that name, and it'll say, okay, I've invited that person, right? So that's all it does. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to let's just try it without any loops. Okay, so let's just say we want to invite each person. So what would that look like? Maybe take a little bit and think about how you would how you would use this part or invite method. How would you write that? Okay, so in order to write that, we say first the class, right? Because it's a class method. You know it's a class method when you see the word static. Okay, and again, the class method does not require any instances to be created, right? It just directly depends on the class. So in order to access that invite method in the party class, we first have to say party, right? And then dot invite, and then I'm just going to type in Alex. Okay, so I can do this, right? I can copy and paste um, for each of these names. Now, let's just see what this does. Okay, so let's just see what this line does. And let me compile this. Actually, let me go over here and compile everything. And now I want to run arrays tutorial main method. Okay, so now it actually does not do anything. So why is that? Let me see. Does it do something? Oh, there you go. I don't know why why it didn't show up earlier. Anyway, so, okay. So basically, whatever name I put in here, it'll say invited that name, right? So let's say, so earlier I copied this thing. Press enter, and I paste it. And let's say I want to invite Maria as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compile this, and let me see if I can clear. Okay, I can clear this terminal so that now we should be able to see what. What should we see on the terminal here? Yeah, so it should say invited Alex and invited Maria, right? Cool. Okay, so now let's do a couple more. So since we have 6 names, I'm going to copy and paste them over here. Okay, now go back here to compile, and let me clear this real quick. And then we run the main method on here, and we see that we have invited all these people, which is great. Now, how can we sort of optimize this a little more? Earlier, from what we've done earlier, you might be thinking, oh, maybe we could use variables, right? So how would you create a variable and help to optimize this? Okay, so for example, we can say string, right, and then name. And then we're going to assign that to, let's just say Alex for now, right? And I can replace this, oh, whoops, semicolon. I can replace that with name, and now name, since name stands for the string Alex, now I can still run this, right? Compile, and again, I'm going to clear this output, and I'm going to run this. Click OK, and it still invites Alex, right? Now, something you might be tempted to do is just to invite all these names, right? Invite everyone. But what's happening here? Like, what is going to output? What do you think is going to output? So let's see what the code says. So let me go ahead and compile this, clear the output over here, and let's run main. And it invites Alex multiple times, right? So imagine if this was like an email sent. So let's say inviting Alex means that an email has been sent to Alex. That means I'm getting 6 emails, and I don't want to get 6 emails, okay? So since name is Alex and we haven't changed it, um, name is always going to be Alex, and it's just doing the same thing over and over again, right? Now, how can we remedy this? How can we fix this problem? Let's not think about loops for now. How can you fix this problem? Okay, so we can fix this problem by reassigning, right? Reassigning the variable name to, the next person right before we invite them, right? Right before we invite the name. So what's going to happen here, right? What's going to happen here is that name first gets assigned to Alex, and then we, invite Alex. And now, since name has already been defined, we don't need that type anymore. Remember that when we only write the type and then the name of the variable when we first declare it, when we first define it, because the computer otherwise would have no idea what type of variable this name is, okay? So now that the computer knows that name is a string, you can still assign it to different values, but they must be a string, okay? So now what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen now? Okay, so let's see what the code says. Maybe you can think about it as I clear these. Okay, so last few seconds, click OK. And now it says invited Alex, and then it says invited Maria, and then you just kind of invite Maria over and over again, right? So why is that happening? Well, because name is being reassigned to Maria, but it's not being reassigned over here. Okay, so how will we do that? Well, let's reassign again. So let's reassign this to Andrew. Okay, let's reassign this to Angela. Oops, let's reassign this to Jose. And let's reassign this to Lily. Okay, so now that we reassigned the name variable multiple times, and then we invite them multiple times, now let's see what it says, right? So now it should give us the right output, the right thing that we want, what we wanted in the beginning. So let me clear the output. I click this, run it, and there you go. So now name is just a placeholder for whatever the actual name string is, and then we're just inviting them, right? Okay, so how can we maybe optimize this? Because many times, right? Let's imagine a few scenarios. Let's say you have like 20 people in this list. That means you have to copy and paste these lines so many times, 20 times. You have like what, 40 lines maybe, right? So how can we shorten it? Well, Java has this for each loop that executes the same things multiple times. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to write it, and then you can tell me what you think. How do you think this works, right? So let me do this, right? Let me pull down a little bit, and I'm going to write a for loop. So I'm going to write for string name and names to invite, and okay, well, let me just, that's okay. And then let me do party dot invite name. And then for, okay, yeah, there you go. I think that, no, never mind. Let me go ahead and comment these out. Okay, so I'm going to comment those out. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Okay, let me, while you sort of think about that, let me compile this and clear this. And let me run that. Okay, so what happened, right? How come I can just have this for loop right here, and then it'll literally just say all the names that I have in the list up here, right? How does it magically know how to do that? Well, okay, so let's sort of break down what we did here. So here is a for loop. Actually, it's for each loop. So what this does is it goes over each name in this names to invite, and it just invites that name. So it calls this method, right? And what similarities do you see between this for loop and what's been done up here? Okay, what similarities do you see? So, one thing I see, right, is, well, first of all, I purposefully named name to be the same as this name, right? Because I want you guys to see that this for loop basically does the same thing as this. What we did was we declared a string name, right? And we assigned it. We assigned it repeatedly to each of these different names. And then we invited them in order. Now with this, what's nice about this for loop is that we can condense all that, all these assignments into this, and it'll do the same thing. So basically what it does is it'll say, okay, well, I'm going to go over each of these elements inside names to invite, and then I'm going to execute whatever the method is with that name, right? So let me just sort of trace this through. So when this for loop first starts, string name is going to be assigned what? It's going to be assigned Alex, because that's the first thing, that's the first element inside names to invite, okay? And we know that we want to get get each element from names to invite because we specify that here. We specify that array here, okay? And now, what's the next thing the for loop is going to do? It's going to say party.invite and then that name, which is, at this moment, it's Alex, right? Okay, so now after it's done that, it reaches the end of the for loop, but it's not really done yet. It goes back up here. Why? What do you think? What do you think it goes back up here? Well, because we're not done with names to invite. We only went through Alex, and we are not done with the rest of the list, right? And that's what a for each loop does. It goes over each element in the list. So it won't be done until it reaches the end of the list, okay? Now, or the array. So now, string name is going to be assigned to Maria, which is exactly what we did here, okay? So we reassign it to Maria, and now we invite Maria. Okay, now it's going to reach the end of the loop. Now it goes back up here again. And now, next thing, right? Next thing we assign to Andrew, which is exactly what we did here. We invite Andrew, reach end of the loop, go back up here. Name is going to get assigned to Angela, which is what we did here. Invite Angela. At the end of the loop, go back to for loop. Jose, okay? Name gets reassigned to Jose, right? And then invite Jose, and then name gets reassigned to Lily, invite Lily, and we reach the end of the loop. Now, is it going to go back up here again? No, right? Because we've already reached the end of the loop. We're already done inviting Lily, and that's the end of that. Okay, so hopefully this sort of gives you guys a first exposure to how a for loop works and how it might be useful. And in the next video, I want to sort of go through more of like the technical terms and things like that.